So everyone, welcome to section 4.1 and section 4.2. I'm going to start with a couple things. First of all, there is not going to be an exam over this content, number one. And number two, this content has a huge amount of value. It's probably worth more to you than the things that we've already learned in the course. And as you will see in example 4, there is a company that is making fertilizer that has two separate plants. And they do the exact same amount of work. And there are 4 different options in terms of how they can go about doing the work. And one of those options costs $112,000 less than the other option. And so we are going to go through a process of learning how to use what you see here on the right to make informed decisions about how we should operate our business and do things like maximize profit or get the job done with the least amount of cost incurred possible. And you'll notice I didn't say minimize cost because we've talked about before that the way to minimize cost is to do nothing, and we're not going to do nothing. But we are going to find in this instance, and this is actually the remnants of example 4 over here, we figured out how to save this company about $112,000 to do the exact same job that would have cost them $112,000 more if they had chosen to go about it a different way. So with that in mind, everyone, again, this is just to be straight up about this is going to feel a little bit weird. You may end up using some tools that you've never used before. Take your time in this section and recognize that it has a lot of value in real world business. So our purpose today, everyone, will be setting up and solving linear inequalities and using those to solve real world problems. With that, we're going to get right to the Schlegel notes that we have here. So to start with, we're going to be using a website called Geogebra. And so this right here is Geogebra. And this is, I've already done a problem on here just to kind of have something here already. And the way to get to Geogebra, you can click this link right here. Or if in the search bar, you just type Geogebra, and it automatically took me to Geogebra Classic. If you type in Geogebra, you'll want to make sure you select Geogebra Classic. And I think that if I make this window bigger, it might look a little bit different. And nope, it still looks the same. So the other piece, everyone, is I'm going to be using Google Chrome to do this. And so if you do not use Google Chrome and you use Safari or you use Firefox or something like that, you may encounter some differences because this is a web-based app. And so depending on what web browser you are using to access it, you might have some small changes. So my recommendation, everyone, would be that you go to Geogebra Classic using Google Chrome and not a different web browser. And Google Chrome is a free download, so if you don't have it, you can certainly get it. And if you would like to use it using a different web browser, feel free. But again, recognize you may have some things that look different than what you're going to see from me. So a couple how-tos with Geogebra first off. Number one, how do I navigate this screen? And so you can grab and pinch and move around on this screen. You'll see that I can't right now. It's because I don't have this arrow right here selected. I've got this thing selected. So if I select that arrow, I can grab and I can move around and very easily see different parts of the graph. So again, if I click a different tool, we are not going to be able to move around. Again, I have to have the arrow selected to be able to grab and move around. Additionally, with that, everyone, if I grab the shaded region over here, I'm not going to be able to move around. The only way I can move around is by grabbing the white region. Also, you're going to end up with instances where you'll start a problem like this one, and your scale will be like up to 20, like what I've got right here. And you can see that I can't see anything because the graph is too large to fit into this space. So it extends way beyond 20. So what you've got to do, everyone, I've got a trackpad on my Mac. I just zoom in and zoom out exactly how I would on my phone. And if you've got a mouse or something like that, you can use the roller to zoom in, zoom out, and your individual machine will handle it its own way. You'll be wanting to zoom in and zoom out so that you can see all of these things that I'm going to refer to as corners. And when I talk about corners, I'm talking about we're going to have a white space, we're going to have a lightly shaded space, a darker shaded space, and a darkest shaded space. What we'll be looking for, and we've talked about this before, is that we're only going to consider quadrant 1, because this quadrant up here is where real life happens. Mathland happens over here, down here, and over here, but real world only happens here for the purposes of business. And hopefully not down here where we have a negative profit. That would be bad. So we're going to, again, focus with quadrant 1, everyone. And as I mentioned, we're going to be spending our time looking for corners that abut the darkest section of the graph. So I can see this is my darkest section, this whole thing over here. And I have a corner right there where this line comes up and bends to make a corner with the y-axis. I've got a corner right here. I've got a corner right here. And I've got a corner right here where this line comes down and then meets the x-axis. So that's just kind of a quick run through of what we're going to be doing with GeoGebra. Again, I'll show you how to do all of this and create all this junk here in a moment. But the purpose of what we're doing today is going to be to find the corners, again, that abut this dark region here. And the reason for that is because that's where we will find solutions to this system of inequalities, and will give us options of what we can do as a business to either maximize our profit or keep our costs as low as possible while still producing a profit, producing a product. Next, I am not going to require you to turn in these graphs. Creating these graphs, the only reason we do it is to get the value of the points where these corners are. So you can see point A is located at 0, 180. Point B is located at 40, 60. Point C is located at 80, 20. And point D is located at 130, 0. So again, the only reason for making these graphs at all is to get this data right here. If you did want to save these graphs, one way to do it is to click these 3 dots right here, or 3 lines, and say export image. You'll be able to save this image on your machine, paste it into a Word document or a Google Doc, whatever you want to do. I think it becomes basically a PNG or some kind of a picture at that point. Another way is if you have a Mac, you can do Command-Shift-4. Oops. I must have pressed something wrong. You can do Command-Shift-4. You get this little target, and you can take a picture or a screenshot like that. There are other ways depending upon the machine that you're using, but again, it's not required to take pictures of these graphs for the homework. We're just creating these graphs strictly to get the value of these points. So, again, I've put in here, please watch the entire video before you even start this problem, because there's a lot to this, and I recognize that. Of course, I'll be on Zoom to help, as I always am in our scheduled times. So if you need a hand with this, we can do it during that time, or we can schedule a time to meet together outside of that. I will be glad to help. Lastly, everyone, once you finish a problem, like I have completed this one, this is actually example 4. What you're going to want to do is come up here, and to do the next problem, click New. You could save this if you chose to. I have no reason to. So I'm going to click Don't Save, and it's going to bring me to a brand new grid. Again, if I have not clicked the arrow up there, I won't be able to manipulate this grid or move it around. I do need to have the arrow selected in order to be able to move my grid around. So everyone, a quick demonstration of how to create what you saw on GeoGebra just a couple minutes ago. And again, I've got my new sheet here. We are going to be asked to do things like create and graph solutions to systems of linear inequalities. And so this is going to be a lot like what we did when we did the investment mix, where we had some of the money plus some of the money equals all the money. And you'll see the creation of those inequalities and problems like the examples that are going to follow. But for now, we're just going to focus on the nuts and bolts of how to create the system of inequalities in GeoGebra and how to find those corners that I spoke of earlier on. So GeoGebra works very similar to Wolfram in terms of how you put information in. There's an input bar here. And so I can say x plus 2y. And to get the less than or equal to symbol, sometimes there'll be a sort of a palette that pops up down here that has that symbol. I can just put in the less than symbol. You'll notice I've got the less than there. And then when I hit the equal symbol on my keyboard, it automatically puts the bar underneath the less than symbol. I finish it off, everyone, and I've got a line, or what appears to be a line, with the shaded region. The tricky piece is that GeoGebra is not going to put a line here. GeoGebra does not consider this to be a line. It considers it to be all shaded up to this point, which is kind of weird and frustrating and causes us to have to do something else. But I'll demonstrate that in a moment. So my next one, everyone, is 2x plus y is less than or equal to 14. Okay, and you can see that that fit nicely. I don't necessarily have to zoom out a whole lot or zoom in a whole lot to see my solution set here. And as we spoke of before, the solution set is any corner in quadrant 1 that abuts the dark shaded region. And so I see a corner right here, I see a corner right here, and I see a corner right here. To plot those points, the way that we're going to do it is come to this button right here that says intersect. I'm not going to use this point button because I could accidentally get close. And you see how I'm not right at the corner right there? That is not a solution. So I'll demonstrate here, everyone. If you do make a mistake like that, you can turn it off by clicking this button right here. Or you can entirely delete it by clicking the 3 dots here on the right and clicking delete. So what we do want to do is we want to use an intersect tool. It's going to put a point where 2 lines intersect. And you can see I'm clicking right here where these 2 lines appear to intersect, but nothing is happening. Now the reason for that is I mentioned a moment ago that GeoGebra does not consider this to be a line because it's an inequality, and it does not consider this y-axis to be a line. So what we need to do to fix that, everyone, we have 2 options. I can retype both of my inequalities in there, but this time putting an equal sign. So again, I've redone this first one with an equal sign instead of an inequality symbol. And the easier and faster way is to click these 3 dots and say duplicate input. So it's going to copy and paste automatically whatever it was that I duplicated. And then instead of retyping the whole thing, I can just change that symbol from an inequality symbol to an equal sign. Now what that's done is it's created a line here and a line here. And to complete this, we need a line on the x-axis and we need a line on the y-axis. We're sort of boxing this dark purple region here. Again, only the part that's in quadrant 1, we're boxing it in with lines. And so the way we get a line on the y-axis is the line x equals 0. And the way we get a line on the y-axis, on the x-axis, is the line y equals 0. So you can see these axes got darker. It's because GeoGebra just added a line to them. So now I can use the intersect tool and click on the corners that abut the darkest region. And I could click 0, 0 most times I could click 0, 0, but I'm not going to because that means doing nothing, and we're not in business to do nothing. So I'm only going to pay attention to the 3 points, these 3 points that abut the dark purple region, and those are going to be solutions to this system of linear inequalities. We're going to be doing this extensively in the problems that follow, so please make sure that you have watched this entire video. Please make sure that you feel comfortable using GeoGebra. Maybe delete this and start over again, do it a couple times before you move on to the next problems. But again, everyone, point A lies at the solution 0, 5. Point B lies at the solution 6, 2. And point C lies at the solution 7, 0. So again, if I was you and I was looking for some practice, what I would do is click here, say new, say don't save, and I've got a new grid here, and I can repeat this problem as many times as I need, rewind the video so that I get comfortable with the use of GeoGebra before moving on. Again, I strongly recommend that you spend some time, maybe do this problem a couple times, get comfortable just with how GeoGebra works before you move on to any of these examples. With that, everyone, this video is a bit on the long side. I hope that the things in here have been helpful and useful. And as I mentioned before, this is a super, super valuable thing for businesses to use to figure out how to maximize their profit or keep their cost as low as possible while still getting the job done.